Yeah, this face isn't doing anything for me, unfortunately. Here's Kuchiki Byakuya in the box. Now, this is pretty much the same box that we've seen before with the S.H.Figuarts of Ichigo and Renji before it as well. So you've got a similar sort of cutout right here, revealing the figure inside. So if you want to keep it inside, you still get a nice view of the figure, plus the view of the optional faceplates here on the left and the hands. The sword is hidden behind this little character panel over here. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple box, similar to what we've seen before, which is nice. I like it. It's consistent. The side, or one of the sides, is going to look like this, similar to what we've seen before as well. So if you've got it all lined up on a shelf, it will look quite nice. We've got the back side showing, as usual, a bit more of the figure, some photos of the figure in action there. So you can see a little bit of the glimpse of the sword as well. This is a captain character, by the way, so he is going to have the white robe that we haven't seen before. So other than that, it should more or less be pretty similar, or if not the same, as Ichigo and Renji as well. So the captains, I was just about to say Organization 13, wrong IP, but the captains do have that white overcoat as well. I'm going to say overcoat because I don't know the actual official terminology for it, but there we go. We'll take a look at that closely soon. This is the other side, or the other spine, and then finishing with the top and the bottom. Otherwise, very consistent with what we've seen with the first two figures from S.H.Figuarts already. Just like the previous two Bleach figures, the inside panels will have the instructions on them on the left and the right side, which I haven't opened. It's annoying, I don't like it, still don't like it, but that's where you can find the instructions if you need them. We have Byakuya out of the box. We'll go through the option parts before we get a closer look at the figure. He's got his default face already attached and the fists already attached to the figure. But the other hands that he comes with, first is one singular hand, and this one is just going to be for his left hand. Fairly relaxed, I would say. I like this hand. It's a shame he doesn't come with two of them. I believe Renji was also quite similar, or Ichigo. He only came with an individual hand like this. I like it. It's just a nice kind of leave on the side type of hands. I prefer, if you're going to have him just standing, I prefer those hands, but only one is just a bit of a downer. Then we've got a pair of hands. This one is the kind of fingers slightly spread apart. Still relaxed, plenty relaxed. I'll show you this single one, just focus that in. There we go. Each of the fingers is nicely sculpted as well. Nice skin tones to it. And you can see on one of the fingers the slight kind of ring around it, which is the actual top part of his, let's say, gauntlets or the wraps that he's got there. And then you've got that little triangular shape towards that finger as well, with a slight kind of protrusion at the top of the knuckle there, you can see as well. So that's going to be the same actually for all of his hands there. This is just the alternate, or the left hand, just to show you that as well. So all of his hands are complete with that as well. Next pair of hands is going to be kind of like the magic hands, or no, go web go, not really go web what goes, the magic hands, right? So you got these spirit fingers, let's call them. So same thing again, same skin tone as well, and then the same sort of gauntlet design on the reverse as well. And then finally, he's got a pair to hold on to his sword. Naturally, you're going to have one of these as well. Like so, very similar to the fists if you haven't seen fists before, but comes with a pair of those. I'll show you how to equip that with the sword soon as well. Then for his faces, as I mentioned, he's got his regular face there. I don't like the regular face. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail shortly. Then he comes with one to close his eyes. So this one is not bad. It's okay. I feel like he's smirking a little bit in this one. Once I've got this applied to the figure, he doesn't look serious enough, in my opinion. He looks very relaxed, almost to the point he might crack a smile or crack a laugh or something. It's okay. Not bad. Everything's kind of quite like clean on this as well, so it's not the end. It's not. When I was gonna say end of the world, it's not like anything special. Basically, it's done fine. Next is gonna be this one here. So he's slightly agitated, I would suppose. You can see his teeth are gritted as well. His eyes are very narrow, but you can see the blues of his eyes. I believe they're blue. There we go. You can see the blues. I'm gonna zoom that in. So have a closer look at that. So you can see the blue of his eyes as well. He's got a nose there, which is a little bit blunted actually. You don't notice that just from naked eyes, but just zooming in you can see it. So I'm going to be fine with that. I won't comment too much about that because it's fine. But yeah, application of the eyes, eyebrows, and the rest of the features is generally quite good. Then we've got this one where he's a little bit more surprised, wider eyes, and then we'll get to zoom in on that as well. So it looks okay. I find his mouth is a little bit weird. It's the sculpting and I guess the added of the lining is a little bit off for me personally on a lot of these faces. This one, he's looking to the right a little bit. I do quite like this face. I think this is a very cool face. I think it can be used in a few different ways, so I like it for that. It would be great if they just kind of added articulated eyes like Revoltech do, but S.H.Figuarts haven't got there quite yet. But again, his mouth just looks a little bit weird. I think because if you add, let's say I've angled it this way, just the lighting, it just adds a little bit of extra shadow on the upper lip. So it just looks a little bit strange. His nose is much better here. Nice sharp nose that he's got there. So it was maybe just that one-off face there. I believe if that's all the faces. I feel like I've missed the face. Generally, his faces are okay. There's nothing to write home about, in my opinion. I'm not super in love with any of his faces, especially that one, but they're fine. They're okay. But I do think they could be a little bit better. I don't know what it is. Something about them is just not 100% for me. Moving on from the faces, we come onto his Zanpakuto, which is going to be the Senbon Zakura. So first we've got the actual sword piece here, like so, fully without the sheath or anything like that. It's just a full sword. And you start with the handle. So we've got the lilac wraps around the actual hilt of the sword there, like so. On the rest base is kind of gold, and then you've got the guard and just kind of cross-shaped guard there. Get a closer look at that. The pommel is nothing special. And then we've got the actual sword bit, the actual blade portion of it, which is pretty standard stuff, standard plastic. It's not as flimsy as Ichigo's one, but it is still fairly flimsy. It's fine though. It's much better than Ichigo's one. There is, that's got to be said. Ichigo's one, I just think, was really strange. Then we come onto his next part, which is going to be the one with the sheath or the scabbard. So this one, you can take the handle off, like so, but that's it. You would just get it handleless. So this is, if you've got him equipping the sword and then you still need to have that handle on, then sure, you'll use this one. And if he's not equipping the sword, you'll put this back. Quite simply, it only goes one way, this way around, like so. And then you've got the kind of belt wrap around one side as well before you get the peg hole there, which I don't like. I really don't like this peg hole design. Renji had the same thing. Don't like it personally. The size of this is slightly smaller than the released version of it. Here you can see the size difference. Otherwise, the colour is the same. The lilac on the scabbard is more of a bluish, turquoisey blue. It's a bit of a mix, but definitely less lilac than the handle is. Then we've got the one which has no extra partition bit. So this is assumingly he's done his Bankai or his Shikai, whichever one it was, when he does the Senbon Sakura, and it turns into the really nice kind of Sakura cherry blossoms, right? So this one is just going to be used for that if you're going to get imposed like that. But a little bit difficult. You just kind of have to use your imagination. But for people that really go all out on their displays, I'm sure they'll have, cherry blossom like sort of effects happening in their display. The size of this handle is the same as the one if he's just got his sword actually released. So it's bigger than just having it in its sheath like so. And that's it. That's all his option parts. He doesn't come with a huge amount. I think in terms of faces, the number of faces are pretty good. Hands, generally quite good as well. I do wish he had a pair of that, the first hand that I showed as well. And then the sword is all good there from that point. Let's quickly equip the sword actually to that hand, just kind of show you how that kind of works. So I've got his right hand here. This one is similar to what we saw with Ichigo and Renji and pretty much everyone else. Just feed it in. Like so, you may or may not struggle. I've been pretty fortunate with my, I was going to say Ichigo figures, my Bleach figure so far. All the swords attached pretty easily, like so. And then just peg in the hand, which we'll get into later on. Let's jump into the figure. So the figure, it's a few things I want to kind of talk about with this one. I don't love it, clearly, because that's how I've started a bit more, I guess, on the negative side, but I don't love it, that's for sure. Starting with the head, the original head that he comes with is this one. I don't like my version. I think the promo shots definitely looked a lot better. It could just be there's a lighting situation there, so look, when you got a little bit more shadows, it doesn't look too bad. But then when I tilt him up a little bit more light, just point blank on his face, it might just be that. But I'm not convinced it is just that. I just think this face is not very, very good. I just don't really like this. I'm going to zoom in again, kind of show you. This face is just a little bit, I don't know. It's weird. His chin's a bit weird, a bit too long. And then his eyebrows just look strange as well. I know he's got short eyebrows, but yeah, this face isn't doing anything for me, unfortunately. So let me know in the comments if this is just my figure or maybe it's yours as well. I have a small niggling feeling that it might also be his hair, the bang portion of the front of his head. The sculpting of the hair might be a little bit too flat, but I know in the anime and his character designs and the manga, it was flat as well because he wears a turban sometimes, right? I can't remember if it's before or after. But either way, I'm not a huge fan of this default face, let's say. The outfit then, or actually continuing with the hair. So the front of the hair, I think, is a little bit flat. The strands are sculpted nicely, is fine. I'm not a huge fan of the back side of his head when viewing it. If you've got him front facing, you're not going to notice that. So it's a bit of a pro and a con. Not the biggest fan of it, if I'm completely honest. What does he wear on his hair? The accessory, we'll just call it an accessory that he wears on his hair. It's strange. It's always been strange. Even in the original kind of designs, it's been strange. But here we've got that as well. You can see the slight seam, and in terms of how you take it off, I'll show you that later on as well. You've got that strand across his face, which I don't think looks fine. That's okay. And then the side bangs, they're all right as well. Nothing special, but they're fine. They're not terrible. They're fine. Moving on to his outfit then. So he's got very gold collars. I think the gold is a little bit more prominent in this figure than it would be in some of the anime comparison or the illustrations instead of colored illustrations. I don't mind it. I think the gold looks pretty good. It adds a nice little pop to the overall coat as well. It's nice, a nice accessorized bit at the collars as well. So all good there. And then coming down to the captain sort of pattern on the bottom part, so with the black and the dots, that looks pretty nice as well. I like the white color of it is really nice. It almost looks pearlescent at times, but it's not pearlescent at all. It just isn't, but it's really good actually. I really like the way that it's colored. It's nice. We've got the 6. I think it's 6. I always forget my kanji numbers, but I think it's 6. So he's got his number on the back in the diamond as well, which is nice. Clean application there as well. It's not a sticker or anything like that. Just kind of show you. So that's nice. I've played around with it a little bit, and his hair hasn't really scratched that. It could do over time, but it's been okay for me so far. But yeah, overall the coat is not too bad. Now the big thing that a lot of people might talk about is the cuts, right? So you got the cut down here, and then you got the clear joints at the back there as well. And obviously those cuts kind of happen. So it's almost like he's got a waistcoat on, which goes to his hips, and then he's got the extended portion. I'm not a huge fan of it, if I'm totally honest. I wasn't even a fan of it even when they revealed the figure. I knew I just wouldn't like it. The actual material is fine, and it works okay. It's not terribly bad. It's not terrible, and it's not exactly amazing either. It's okay. If you kind of just keep it like this, it's fine. It's possible. Once you want to pose it up a bit, let's say we just lift it up, it is articulated a little bit. It just looks a little bit stiff because then you've got this portion here that spikes out. Again, it's not terrible. It's not great either. I just think something like that, they could have and should have just gone with a nice white fabric, clean fabric. I know it's going to be a little bit extra labor, potentially. I don't really know how these things are necessarily made. That one's going to have stitching, but it just would have looked much, much better, in my opinion. Rest of the outfit, though, in terms of the black undersuit type of thing, that's all pretty much the same as what we saw with Ichigo and Renji as well. So the same sort of sash, the same sort of top, the same sort of sleeves as well. Even the shape of the arm sleeves here you can see as well near the wrists or forearms. Same thing as well. He's obviously got his little kind of gauntlet thing which extend to the fists or the hands. So that's slightly different compared to Ichigo and Renji as well. But yeah, it's otherwise pretty much the same. He's got the belt sash here, but he's got this little peg here, which is where you're going to attach the scabbard of his sword. I don't like it. It looks really off. Renji had the same thing. I don't like it. There's surely a better way to do this. Maybe like a cap, and then, yeah, it's a few more additional small parts, but I think it looks for a cleaner figure, whereas what we've got here just looks a bit odd. So you are going to want to use the sheath on there, otherwise it just looks a bit odd. The pants are the exact same as what we saw with Ichigo and Renji as well. Not a huge fan of it. I think by this point I'm getting a little bit used to it. Mine's a bit, I think, glossy here or scuffed here. But yeah, I'm getting a little bit used to it at this point. I'm still not a huge fan of it, to be quite honest. It's just something that maybe it just doesn't work in a hard plastic kind of action figure like this. Maybe I'm just being too fussy. Potentially that's what it is as well. But that is how it looks. This is how it's going to be. This is just how it is. This is how all three of them have been so far, and I expect that Kenpachi and Hitsugaya, the two next Bleach figures, are going to look the same as well. And then to finish it off with his tabi, the feet, they are the same as well as Ichigo. I'm sorry, not Ichigo. They're the same as Renji in terms of just the white socks with the brown or natural tone sandals as well. They look fine. All good over there. When it comes to articulation, that's kind of mid, I would say. So he's got the long hair, so that's going to hinder him looking up a little bit. He can still look up, but very, very slight. Let's try and lift the hair strands up a little bit more and see if that makes a difference. A little bit. I would say just a little bit. The hair strands I did mention is kind of about that is the extension or the extent they're going to move. And then you can flip them to the side as well if he's got wind blowing. That's fine. Looks fine from the front, right? It's just always the back that it looks a bit weird. Head, move to the left and right. The collars do get in the way of his long chin a little bit, at least with this default face. He's got the neck movement down there next to his collarbones. The arms and sleeves are pretty similar to what we saw with Abarai Renji as well. It looks a bit weird sometimes when it kind of disconnects, like I would say like this, where you get too much gaps happening. So play around with that so it doesn't have too much of that. So just kind of get them closer together so it looks a bit more seamless. It's okay otherwise. You can move these all the way up and around like so. You can do the same with that shoulder piece, but once you misalign it, it's annoying to kind of put back into place. You got a bicep cut here. You got the bend at the elbow like so. I cannot remember exactly, but I believe that's pretty much the extent that Abarai Renji could go as well. This face seriously is putting me off at this point. And then we get to the hands. Yes, that's where we were. So he doesn't have a twist, at least on my one, on the forearm bit. But the rest of the hands is pretty much as you would expect from most good action figures. So that's fine as well. He can kind of get his arms fairly close together, actually. So he can actually hold on to the sword two-handed if you wanted to and have them, you know, his arms bent a little bit like he's doing a two-handed swipe or something. It does work, so it looks pretty cool as well when you do that. The midsection bit, you could have guessed, it's going to be a bit hindered because of the long coat that he's got. So he can crunch. It's a bit hard to do, but he can do it. But you won't really see that too much. But it is possible, and then it's a bit awkward to kind of reset it back because you can't really have access to it because of this portion here. It's okay, but you can do the crunch, and then the twist, he has it a little bit, but most of that's going to be down at the bottom near the hip bit as well, which I think was going to be expected. So it's fine, it's okay. Legs are pretty much the same standard stuff as we saw with Ichigo and Renji, like so. And then we've got the twist at the upper portion there. The knee bend, like so. I think I'm used to it, like I said, now at this point, so it doesn't look as bad as the first or second encounter. And then coming down, still, we don't have the twist at the inner portion there. It looks good. It's nice that it looks clean, but having that twist would be so much better. And then his feet have the same sort of articulation as before, but I feel his don't twist as much. Or at least on my unit, it doesn't. But yeah, he's got the rocker thing like so, and then the toe hinge like so as well. So all generally pretty standard stuff. Oh, of course, the coat bit, which you mentioned before. Mine did come off. There we go. It came off on one side. It might do for you as well. Just poke it back in. You might have to just, this is actually the underside, I might as well show you that. This is the underside, it's huge on the underside of that coat. But let's get that back in, and hopefully it stays this time. This is the one that I have a problem with. You can actually use that a little bit, put your thumb at the bottom, and then force it back in there. It should click back in place. Mine feels a little bit loose, hopefully yours doesn't. But that's it, that's the articulation for this Byakuya figure. Pretty standard, but of course, naturally, as I mentioned, the midsection is going to be a little bit more restricted thanks to his coat. Then let's swap some parts, because I really don't like this face. God, this face is just awful. I don't know. I have a feeling it is probably just my unit. Sometimes it can happen, right? Just a one-off bad batch. But this face is awful. So I'm going to switch it to the side-eye one. I really like the side-eye one. I've got the figure off screen. My bad. So side-eye face, just pull off the bangs and then replace the head. That plugs into the bottom peg holes at the bottom, or at the bottom of the back of the head even, and then replace the bangs like so. And then here we've got him with the side eyes, which looks, in my opinion, it looks much better than the other one. The other, yeah, there's just something wrong with the other one. All his faces look even more weird without the hair, but there's just something weird with that one. So he looks much better suddenly. And then I'm gonna take off one hand and then get the sword attached. Oh, it's the wrong way around, actually. Didn't realize that. I'm going to twist that around. Probably not the best thing to do. But here we go. I'm going to attach that. Just like every other good action figure, just pull off the hands. Hopefully you don't break any pegs. And then plug it back in. It's pretty straightforward. S.H.Figuarts are really straightforward with their hands. I don't think I've ever had one break on me in terms of swapping hands. So yeah, just go crazy with them, I suppose. It's been great with S.H.Figuarts figures personally swapping parts. There we go. He's got his sword attached. He's in a bit of a stiff pose there. He is side-eyeing, but I like this pose because it can be used quite casual. So I just like it. Like, imagine if he's just taking just a simple stride and he's just walking with his sword and then giving someone a bit of a side-eye look, right? I just think it looks so simple, but so cool. That's how I see Byakuya. Just a simple person who doesn't need to do anything excessive. That's how I see him. So just a simple pose like that, I'm happy with it. It's the face I like the most, but you can swap around with the other faces if you want to. Of course, you've got the options to do it, so go ahead and do that. But otherwise, he is pretty straightforward. Nothing super crazy to change around otherwise. Let's bring out the Renji figure. I don't know if he was going to stand. He's very dusty. I just kind of had him sitting around until I got around to opening Byakuya. Renji might not stand, so if he collapses, so be it. I think he might collapse. Right, okay, he's good. He's good. He's obviously got a much bigger sword, a bit bigger Zanpakuto. And then we've got the Ichigo as well, which I'll hopefully try and squeeze in here. So I'll put him to the back just there. He might not stand. His feet are slightly awkward position. So height-wise, very similar, all of them across the board. I think Ichigo, Byakuya are pretty much the same size. Renji might be a little bit taller than the others. Pretty much neck and neck, though, I would say. They look good together. I'm not going to lie, actually. They do look decent together. I still think Ichigo is the weakest one. And then Byakuya probably follows not that far behind. Just purely because of that default face, in my opinion, is not very good. Renji is probably the one that I like the most. Purely his faces, I think, are very, very good. But yeah, that's 3 S.H.Figuarts of Bleach so far. We do have Kenpachi announced as well. We do have Hitsugaya also announced, which I'm looking forward to. Hitsugaya looks very good in the faces, at least. But I know it's going to be the same issue that we've seen with Byakuya here. So it's a bit of mixed feelings with this line so far. We are starved on Bleach figures, but definitely mixed feelings. I think let's just, don't complain too much, right? We are getting S.H.Figuarts figures, so let's see what comes out next as well. Wrapping it up, this Byakuya doesn't look too bad at times, but it looks bad at other times as well. So for my particular one, the default face was not very good. And now that he's got his white overcoat, although it generally looks okay, I don't like all the additional cuts and the articulation points on them so much. Personally, that's on top of the black Shinigami outfit that has already got too many cuts on the leg portion of things. So overall, it's a very distracting looking figure, and it doesn't look seamless enough for my personal liking. However, we are starved on Bleach figures, so I still will be checking out the Kenpachi one and the Hitsugaya one when that comes out. Hopefully, we'll see some small improvements as well, but come back then and then we'll find out together.